Hey, hello friends, this is Gerardo, and today I am going to do this video where we are going to walk through the home buying steps, and I use this handy little flow chart. There's a link below or somewhere. You can access this straight from my website. I use this for all my clients. I continually use this throughout the process just because it's visual and it's handy and it's easy to explain. So let's dive in with the first step. As you can see, the first step is to meet with us. What does that mean? Ideally, that means meeting with a lender and a realtor. And why is that important? It's definitely important because you want to know where you're at currently now in order for you to move forward to the next steps. As you can see, the next step is a mortgage pre-approval, and it is very important that you get pre-approved first before going shopping, because it's going to be very difficult to, first of all, to get inside a home, because nowadays sellers want to make sure that anybody coming into their property is pre-approved. For some reason, you're not pre-approved, that's okay, don't worry. A lot of my clients start there. I like to call it that you're kind of window shopping in a way. So if you're not pre-approved, you're technically window shopping, and visiting homes is not gonna immediately happen. Most of my clients, from the time they meet with us to get pre-approved, not everyone is ready right at the moment. I think on average, a lot of our clients take within 3 to 4 months. There's a lot of documents to gather. You got to kind of get your finances in order. And that's why I kind of say you got to meet with someone first to know exactly where you're at. Because once you find out where you're at, you can then proceed with the steps necessary to get pre-approved. So in this scenario, using the steps in this video, let's assume that you are pre-approved. And once you are going to hire your realtor. So let me step back. You as a client are hiring. So you have the power. You are hiring your team. What does that mean? Who is your team? Well, your team is definitely going to be first a realtor. Second, a mortgage lender, and so on and so on. It's going to be an attorney, a home inspector, and you're going to get insurance. So that is going to be your team. You're going to be creating that team. So I encourage you to interview, meet with a couple of realtors, and ask them key questions. You know, if you get a good vibe from that person, that's a good indicator. Ask about their experiences. Ask about if they've worked with, you know, if you're a first-time homeowner. You know, ask a lot of questions. You know, if you know anybody that purchased a home recently, to kind of pick their brain. Jump on Google. You know, they're a good resource when hiring a realtor. But I highly encourage that. And this is me as a realtor letting you know that, you know, don't just settle for that first one. Kind of shop around. Same thing goes with any other professional that you hire. And once you do hire somebody, especially me, I'm going to be there 100% for you. So the next step, once you do hire me to become your realtor, it's a formal hiring process. A lot of misconceptions is, you know, we don't want to either work with a realtor or it's too expensive, etc. Well, the reality is I get paid by the seller. So hiring a realtor is a huge benefit for you, because the realtor is going to be there by your side, help you negotiate price, closing costs, and help you get to where you need to be. I like to consider myself more as a project manager, and I take you throughout the steps. Again, I use this sheet, the one that you're seeing right now on the screen. I use this sheet throughout the process. And once we clear a step, I kind of cross it out. Once we are at a step, I send you links to my website with the next steps. And I also call you every Tuesday to make sure you understand what you're doing, and you know where you're at now and going forward. So let's get to it. You are pre-approved, and now is the time to actually go house hunting. It's time to visit homes. So once I take on a client, I send them my Google form. Where do you want to live? We set you up on the MLS. So the MLS is our realtors database. The MLS is really where everything happens. If you are using one of the consumer websites, for example, Realtor.com, HomeSnap, Zillow, and Redfin, that's fine. It's perfectly fine. A lot of my clients use that as a resource. We like to say that the MLS is kind of where it starts. And then from there, everything funnels down to the consumer websites. So in order for you to not miss a home, we set you up on a MLS property search with your criteria. Prior to that, we meet with the client. I always like to meet with the client before visiting homes, just because this might be your first time buying and you might have a million questions. So we want to get those answered, and we want to get those kind of out of the way where you feel comfortable, where you know exactly what our steps are. And I schedule a pre-consultation, a meeting, where we talk a little bit about the home search, the next steps, the do's and don'ts when showing a home, and also kind of give you a little bit of how to formulate an offer. Because the goal is going to find that one home. We're going to look for one home. And I use the process of elimination. So what I do there is we start with all the homes that match your criteria, and we funnel down. We narrow down all the homes that you do not like, maybe don't qualify, maybe the conditions, etc. And when you do find the one, and most of my clients usually find the one within, I'm going to say anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. So it does take some time. It takes a lot of teamwork. I usually like to go see about 5 to 6 homes per occurrence, just because we want to, go out and take advantage of that time. When we do go shopping, go see a home, we take about half an hour at the property. If for some reason you don't like the house immediately, you're not offending me, that's okay. We immediately leave, go on to the next one. But if you immediately love that property, we're gonna stay there a little bit longer. You're gonna visualize, and when I do my property walkthroughs, I'm always looking out for anything that's out of the ordinary. Watermarks. I like to start at the basement because you can see everything at the basement first. Does it flood? Is there seepage? We look at the HVAC. We look at the electrical box. These are all visual inspections. So anything that's out of the ordinary, I'm calling it out. I'm letting you make a decision. That's the way it's supposed to be. So I'm very, when I see something, I say it. So I say, for example, hey, there's a watermark right there. We don't know what it is, but we could definitely ask the seller's agent for a little bit more clarification. And we make a list. At every showing, I'm going to have you rate the home from a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being, just not for me. 10 being, wow, amazing home. It's my dream home. It's the best. And we're going to rate these homes because you're going to see a lot of homes throughout the process that often my clients kind of get confused, kind of forget the house that they like. So I keep track of every property that we see, and we score the property. And what I tell my clients, any property that is a 7.5, 8 and above, then we put that on your top 3 list. Again, kind of how I said, we're going to narrow down the properties. And the way we're going to narrow down the properties is on that scale of 1 to 10. Anything that's a 7, 8, 9, 10, we're going to most likely add that to a rolling top 3 list. And this is going to help you determine which one stacks up against the other, because you're going to see a lot of homes. So that's one of the questions that I ask. What do you rate this property? Second question that I ask once we do our walkthrough is, how do you feel about this home? Very open-ended question. That's when I really start to get your feedback. And often you will love it, or you will just say, you know what, I'm not feeling it, or whatever else comes to mind. It's kind of like an open-ended question, very free-flowing. I learned a lot about my clients asking this type of question. And again, I take notes and we assess those notes. And once you're ready, once you have your top three, what we do right there is we help you make an offer. So when you identify your top three, I'm going to pull comps because I don't want you to overpay for a home. And we're going to run comparable properties, about three comparable properties that have sold within the past, I'm going to stick between 3 to 6 months, because we want to see what's the price point. And from there, I also call the agent, the seller's agent, to make sure, hey, can you tell me a little bit about the property, a little bit about the seller. Sometimes they'll tell us a little bit of information, other times they won't. But I always like to call to make sure we're not in multiple offers, we're not in highest and best, because from there, it's if we are in those situations, we're going to have to be very close to the purchase price. I often tell my clients that the best properties to get you good deals are properties that have been on the market for about 40, 45 days plus. And I found that through experience, those properties, sellers are ready. They are just waiting to get out of their home. And from those, we could definitely lower the price, include closing costs. We get to negotiate a little bit more, because in real estate, it's all about leverage. And if you see a hot home that there's multiple offers, multiple buyers like you looking at a single property, that causes a lot of stress for the buyer, because the term highest best comes in. You have one shot to submit that offer. You are competing against multiple buyers. So we lose a little bit of leverage there. And I always tell my clients, if you want me to negotiate a little bit less on price and closing costs, I think the best homes to do that are the ones that sat a little bit longer, just because they don't have much competition. And again, like I said, it's all about leverage. With those type of properties, the buyer has leverage. We have the leverage a little bit more than the seller does. So again, identifying that one property. From there, we're going to write an offer. So I explained a little bit of how I do that. And write an offer, it's a contract. It's paperwork. It's about 13 pages. Often the offer looks very intimidating. It's a lot of legal language. I explain it, of course. But in reality, there's about 5 major points that are the most important. First is price. What are we going to offer? And again, I kind of said what we're going to do to help you price this property. And with those, that's running comparables. Comparable report, so you can know what has been sold within the last 3 to 6 months. So price. Second thing is the closing date. Standard closing is about 40 to 45 days. When I make a phone call to the seller, that's one of the questions that I ask. What is the seller looking for? Are they okay to close in 45 days? Or do they need to sell a property to buy another property? In that case, then that 45 days is going to be a little bit longer. So we got to negotiate that. So again, price, closing date, earnest money, and we're going to have to provide a monetary amount, usually minimum about $1,000. If we're in multiple situations, multiple offer situations, then I highly encourage that you add a little bit more. So instead of 1,000, maybe 3,000, maybe 3,500, because it's going to give us a little bit more leverage. But at the most part, if there's not many offers, then I usually just say, hey, let's do $1,000. And again, the earnest money it's not for the seller. They don't pocket that and go on vacation or whatever. No, that's not how it works. The earnest money is part of the transaction. So it either buys down your loan amount or it's part of the transaction. So that money belongs, it's a good faith that you're going to go through with the offer. So let's say purchase price, closing date, earnest money, what type of financing do you have? The seller wants to know what type of financing. Are you FHA? Are you VA? Are you conventional? Are you cash? Are you 201(3)K? They want to know that, and how much down payment you're putting. All of that information goes into the offer. And then the last thing is what stays with the property. So when we tour the property, I'm taking mental notes, what's in the property. You know, is the washer and dryer going to stay? Is the fridge going to stay? Anything else that, you know, that we have on there that we see, but usually it's about the washer and dryer, refrigerator, the appliances. Also exclusions. Just an example, I had a client before that did not want the pool because they just didn't want to deal with it. They owned a pool before, they hated it, and one of the exclusion was on the contract that they will buy the property, but they asked the seller to exclude the pool at their own expense. So those are the 5 points: price, closing date, earnest money, what stays, and the financing. So once we get you the offer, it's 13 pages. You're going to sign, you're going to initial each page and then sign the last one. And from there, we're going to have your offer. We're going to have the disclosures. The disclosures is the property disclosures, the lead disclosures, and the radon disclosures. Basically, it's the seller telling us if there's any issues with those items. So it's the sales contract, disclosures, and your pre-approval letter. Remember, we cannot submit an offer, and it's very tough right now to go see homes if you're not pre-approved. The sellers do not want you there if you're not pre-approved. So we complete a packet, we put that in a PDF, we send it out to the seller's agent, and at that point, we officially started negotiations. At that point, once we submit an offer, I expect an answer back within 24 hours. I mean, that's pretty customary. If we don't hear back, I follow up. And at that point, the seller is going to have an opportunity to review your offer, review your financing, your pre-approval, and expect a counter. Usually it's always a counter offer. So for example, let's say, for instance, you submitted an offer at $200,000. Now the seller's going to review that with their agent, and they're going to have three things. They could accept your offer at $200,000. They could flat out reject your offer at $200,000, or they could submit a counter offer. And submitting the counter offer will be, for example, their counter offer is going to be $195, for example. You're buying at $200. They're saying, I'm sorry, you're buying at $200. They're saying $205. So that's a counter offer. It is when you submit your contract to them, they review it, and they give you another price. It's kind of like a little dance in between. Little dance. We're going back and forth, back and forth. And there is counter offers. They could go many times. I say one price, you say another, I say another, I say another, until both parties are in agreement. And that's when the offer is accepted. The offer is accepted only when the seller signs. Once the seller signs, we have an offer accepted, and from there, it gets real. Time starts clicking. Remember how we put down in the offer that you're going to close within 45 days? Well, those 45 days is going to start at the offer accepted. So at that point, Paperwork is ready. We are, at that point, going to send the paperwork to your attorney. We're going to send the paperwork to your lender. It's kind of like me handing off the baton, kind of like in track and field. Just hand over the baton. Hand over the baton. And we're handing over that baton to the attorney and the mortgage lender. Now it's their turn to do their job. And it's the people that you hired. Now, doesn't mean that I go away, because I don't, because there's still a couple more steps that I have to do. And immediately one of those steps is submit the earnest money. I am going to send you a list of instructions of where the earnest money is going to go to. Usually the earnest money goes to the seller's attorney or the realtor's office. It goes into an escrow account. Again, that money is not for the seller to, go eat a fancy dinner. It is part of the transaction. It's in an escrow account. It's in a safe account. Often I get a question, well, what if I don't go through with the deal? That is a very valid question. You have 5 business days. 5 business days to perform the inspection. And you're going to have 3 business days to submit the earnest money. That's what we put down in the contract. But within those 5 business days, you're going to get a chance to do the inspection and review the contract with your attorney. Once you do the inspection, and let's say, for instance, it's a beautiful home from the outside, but the inspector goes out, just tells you, hey, a lot of issues, a lot of things that were unforeseen. You have the opportunity and every right to say, I just don't feel comfortable with the property. I'm gonna withdraw. So within those 5 business days, you can definitely withdraw, and that earnest money comes back to you. It's a valid reason. Let's say further down the line, we accomplish all these steps. You get cold feet. You say, you know what? I just don't want to buy property anymore. It seems too much responsibility. You just want to continue renting. Seems too much stress. Whatever that reason be, the sellers could possibly keep that money. So we need to have a valid reason. Either you can't get the financing, you couldn't get the loan, you lost a job, unfortunately. Those are all valid reasons for cancellation. But just to say, I just don't want the house anymore, not a valid reason. Seller's going to definitely want to keep that money because they're going to feel the time was wasted. So again, offer accepted. And from there, 3 business days to submit the earnest money. I and my team sent out an email in terms to where the earnest money is going to go to. It's usually a certified check, instructions to write the address on the check, and where to deliver it. In that same email, we have a list of 5 to 10 inspectors. I don't tell you who to use. I, in that same email, encourage you to make some phone calls, go on to Google, do a Google search on them. You don't have to use those people on the list. I always say do an independent research, find out who you feel comfortable, ask them, ask the inspectors what you're going to do, how much you're going to charge. I'm a big person, tap into your referrals. To your network for referrals, and hire somebody within immediately. So once we're under contract, once it's offered, accepted, the expectation is that by day two, you get an appointment for the home inspection, because we're going to have to coordinate with the seller to make sure we're able to do the home inspection. And the home inspection is going to take about 3 hours, 3 hours or so, depending on the size of the home. The inspector is going to be out there. I am out there. I go to all my inspections. I'm there as a support. I like to know what's going on, and I like to troubleshoot. I like to ask the inspector any questions, and I'm there for your support in case you need anything. So we got to coordinate everyone's schedules. The inspector is going to be out there. They're going to check the inside, the out, the roof. Some have drones that they fly over. Other have, you know, these cool little gadgets. I would ask a lot of questions prior to hiring an inspector. Also a question, you know, if they need to come back, are they going to charge you again? What are they going to do? And again, to me, it's all about a vibe. You know, are they answering your questions? Are they available? Are they taking your concerns? Are they just kind of blowing you off? I wouldn't hire someone like that. The inspector is going to go out there. We're going to go out there. You're going to go out there. You have to go. There's no questions asked. You got to go. Either use someone or, you know, someone else from your team. You got to go. The inspector is going to generate the report. It's about anywhere between 50 to 60 pages. The first couple pages is kind of what the summary, the most important. And that inspection report is going to be emailed and sent off to the attorney, because the attorney is going to help us close the deal. They're going to negotiate. The buyer's attorney, your attorney, is going to negotiate with the seller's attorney. Remember kind of how I said I passed over the baton? So my job is to get you to the offer accepted, this stage. The attorney's job is to help us get to the closing. And as I mentioned, I don't go away. I consider myself more of a project manager, where I stay within the transaction. I follow up every Tuesday, checking in if anything's needed from me. I check in with the lender. I check in with the attorney. Monday, just kind of get any feedback, anything that we need. And I follow up with you the following day to give you updates. It doesn't mean that that's about the only time I talk to you. I do a lot of texting with my clients, you know, for little small things. But when it comes down to money, when it comes down to contracts, when it comes down to something that, you know, we need to call and talk in person, then that's what we're going to do. So the inspection is going to be performed within 5 business days. Again, I highly encourage that as soon as we get an offer accepted, you make phone calls to the inspectors, because right now they're busy. Either year-round, they're busy. So it's always good to get them in right away and then coordinate with me so we could book that appointment. Again, the inspection is going to be about 50 to 60 pages. The first couple pages are what I call just the meat and potatoes, the most important items. We're going to send that over to the attorney, and we are going to request any repairs or request any credits. And you're going to review that with that inspection with me. I'll check it out. We'll huddle up, and I will kind of get a list going, prepared for the attorney. We send that off to the attorney. The attorney calls you just to make sure that those items are what you want. If it's a perfect home, then it's a perfect home. You know, you don't ask for any repairs or requests. When asking for repairs or requests, it's very important, very, very, very important, that it's only safety issues. It's not cosmetic work. You know, it's not that I don't like the paint color, or I don't like the tile color, or etc. You know, I don't like the faucet. No, it's more of safety issues. The furnace is not working, electricity, GFCI outlets, and we're looking for items that, if you have an FHA loan, we need to make sure that there are items that are corrected in order for the FHA loan to pass. If you have a conventional, they're a little bit more lenient, and at that point, you know, we have to assess everything. So once we, and once again, in the inspection stage, especially within the 5-day attorney review, we don't jump to any other steps until that one step is completed. And when I mean completed, it's not like a handshake. Hey, you know, we agreed on the seller's going to fix this and fix that. No. Okay. Everything is paperwork. They're going to draw up an addendum, and you're going to sign, the seller's going to sign, everything is official. Then and only do we move on forward. Title work is something that the attorney is going to be doing. Basically, it's a history of the home. It is looking at if there's any liens, anything that you might potentially inherit that you don't want to inherit. Just a quick example, let's say, for instance, you're buying my house. I hired a contractor to do some work. It turns out I didn't pay the contractor. The contractor has every right to submit a mechanic's lien on the title. So if you buy that home and there wasn't a title search, then you're potentially going to have to pay that contractor. So the attorney is going to do that title work, make sure the title is clean. And also what title means too, is basically it's a third party where they are not for the seller and not for the buyer, but it is title. It's a title company where they are collecting all the data, all the documents, and when it comes to closing, you close at a title company. So they are kind of like the middle people that help us get to the closing. So let me backtrack a little bit because I want to point out, these 45 days are pretty stressful. If you heard otherwise, I don't know, but it's pretty stressful because it's new to you, because anything could happen, and anything could happen in the inspection. It's very stressful. Again, you might see the home, it's beautiful, it's great, it's shiny, but from the inside, oh my God, it's not the best. And that could be, it could be bad, It could be, a lot of my clients get emotionally attached to that one property. I tell them, don't get emotionally attached. So anything can happen with the inspection. Anything can happen with the, requesting repairs. It's just a request. It's not guaranteed that the seller's going to do those repairs or issue you a credit. So this it's a big stressor, but once we clear this hurdle, that's one stressor gone. The other stressor is the appraisal, because the appraisal, the bank wants to make sure that, for example, you're buying that $200,000 home. Bank wants to make sure that that $200,000 home is valued at $200,000, because they're going to give you that loan at $200,000. Now, you're going to pay for the appraisal. The appraisal is going to be about $450. So if you're taking notes, put $450 here. The inspection is going to run you about $450. So we're doing an out-of-pocket expense. Again, the earnest money. Remember about the earnest money? We're going to do about a minimum of $1,000. So there's out-of-pocket expenses, and I want you to write that down. Earnest money, minimum $1,000, provided in 3 days. Inspection, roughly about $450. I kind of say if you're paying more than $450, make another couple phone calls. If you're paying, $500, $600, definitely make another phone call, unless you feel comfortable paying a little bit more. The appraisal roughly going to run around $450. The bank is going to order it. You're going to pay, and then the appraiser is going to render service. So you have to pay first, and then the appraiser goes out. So what is the appraiser going to do? Well, they're going to go out. They're going to pull comparables. So remember when I said I pull comparables to help you make an offer? Well, guess what? I don't do that just to do that. I do that because I know that's going to happen later on. And I want to make sure that we're prepared, that we're not overpaying, and that the house is priced correctly. So the appraiser is going to make sure that it's priced right, that it's valued for the loan amount, and the condition. If you're buying an FHA property and there's peeling paints, there's broken windows, they're not going to pass that. They're going to say the seller, if you want to buy that house, you got to negotiate with the seller so they could fix that. And again, remember, when I'm walking through the home, you're probably kind of visualizing, hey, this is where a sofa is going to go, the kids' room, the TV. Here is everything else. I am looking for these things that might come up in the future. So if you have an FHA loan and I see a bunch of peeling paints, I'm going to let you know, hey, a bunch of peeling paint right here. We either have to negotiate with the seller or we're going to have to take a chance. But I never like to take chances. But I always leave that up to the client. One of my philosophies is I will never tell you what to do. You have to decide. I will give you my opinion and advise you, but you are the client. And you're going to tell me, Gerardo, yes, I want to proceed. We'll take our chances. We'll see if it comes back up in the appraisal. So again, the appraisal, very stressful process because anything can happen. So for example, what could happen? The appraiser goes out and it turns out that the property that you're buying at $200,000, well, it's only worth $190,000. Now the bank is going to give you a loan for only $190,000, but you were under contract at $200,000. So there's a deficit. There's a $10,000 gap. Two things that's going to happen. We're going to request the property and a price reduction at $190,000 via the attorney. A couple things that can happen there. The seller might say, nope, I need $200,000, XYZ reasons. We don't have a deal anymore. Or I haven't seen it yet. You could pitch in that $10,000, but the bank is only going to lend you $190,000. At that point, my recommendation, the attorney's recommendation, is that we renegotiate the price. And we let them know, here's the appraisal. It came back short. It came back at $190,000. This is the price that we want. And then we have to negotiate all over again. And it's stressful because I've seen it happen where the appraisal comes short and the seller just says, nope, I can't do it. And it's done. Cancellation. You get your earnest money. We start all the way in the beginning. But if it appraises at $200,000, the purchase price, the loan amount, then we're good. Everything's perfect. I think after those two, the stress really winds down. After the appraisal, you're going to be in contact with the bank. You're going to be in contact with your loan officer, and they're going to be pulling a lot of financials. So a lot of what you provided at the mortgage pre-approval, you're probably going to provide again. They're going to re-verify everything. Re-verify that you're still employed, that you still have a job, that you didn't rack up any credit. Yeah, they want to verify all of this information. They're going to lend you a certain amount of money, and they want to make sure that they're covering their bases. So once we get the magical words of clear to close from the lender, then the attorneys could start scheduling the closing. That's when you and I do a final walkthrough. So for example, you close, let's say December 31st, then you and I are going to go to the property to make sure that they left the appliances. Remember how we requested the appliances, that they did any type of repairs. And prior to the repairs, the attorney is going to ask too, hey, were the repairs completed? But we physically want to inspect everything. And that's the final walkthrough. It's one day prior. So if we close on the 31st of December, then we're doing the walkthrough on the 30th of December. We want to make sure that they're fully, the seller's gone, there's no personal items, that they didn't, they didn't leave anything behind, that the appliances are there, and that there's nothing out of the ordinary. If something is out of the ordinary, then I immediately get on the phone, call the attorneys. Hey, this is what happened. Either they left, a lot of debris, they left a lot of furniture. I'll probably call the agent. Hey, what's going on? I think so. Going to move this. If something worse happens, then we kind of escalate it. But in a nutshell, that is the final walkthrough. One day prior to closing. And if everything goes well, which 9 times out of 10, everything goes well at the final walkthrough. From there, the next day you close, I suggest take the day off. Anything could happen. You might be at closing there for a while. Usually it's about 2 to 3 hours. but I've been at closings where it's been surprises where it takes a little bit longer. So I always suggest, just take the day off. It's time for you to celebrate. You already have enough stress as it is. Closing is, you're going to sign a stack full of paperwork. You're going to meet the attorney there. The attorney is going to explain to you all the paperwork. And at that point, you are going to get keys at closing, and yeah, you're officially a homeowner. And at that time, you take possession, and it's celebration time, and congratulations to you. So in a very quick synopsis and explanation, I use this form again all the time when I meet with the clients, and then throughout the process, I text the client this or email it, however they prefer to communicate. And I'm going through all the steps, so you don't need to memorize this. This is basically just a quick introduction for you to know that, hey, this guy knows what he's doing, which I do, and that I can clearly explain to you the processes, the steps, and hopefully this gives you confidence to hiring me as your future realtor. Again, this is Gerardo Zavala, live and direct from Berwyn, Illinois at Luna Realty Group. I appreciate it. Please give me a like, subscribe, share, and there should be a link to make an appointment with me and talk a little bit more. It's my Let's Talk Real Estate consultation. Thank you. Peace out, and we'll talk soon.